Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. Okay, wow, I can see I have a lot of strands of this color. Okay, just going to check the lengths. Okay, that's not very long, so that I can decide what I'm going to do with them. All right, that's a longer one. This one right on the edge here, it's fairly long too. Okay. Lots of confetti here again. Okay, that's going to be enough for just one stitch here. Yeah, and then I'll start a new thread for the other ones lower down. Okay. Might go back to this color. Oh, no, that color. Okay, so once again, I'm going to check these. Length of these part threads. Okay, so that one's longer, but I'll get to it later. There, so I did all those because then that way I can do those 4 all in one go, if the thread is long enough, which it is. Good. But I need to trim it. Yeah, there's going to be lots of multiple threads in this section because you can see the colors are scattered and not in big blocks, even if you use a lot of the same color. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I could park this sort of directly underneath, or pretty close to right here where the bunch of stitches, but instead I'm going to park it down here on this one, and then that thread can carry over to the right. That way I don't do anything out of order. Unselect that for a second. And I'm not having to add a new thread to do it since this is long enough. So that is why I chose to do that rather than parking it, say, here or here, which was a little closer, but that was the reason for me parking it a little further away. Because if I had parked it, say, here and carried down, I would end up hitting this one here. and then I would have nowhere else to park it. I have to end the thread, rather than if I carry it over to the right, I might be able to get a few more stitches out of it. So yes, that is the method to my madness, as I say. Okay, so how long is this piece? Oh yeah, this is a pretty long one. So I'm going to carry it down to the left, and then the other lone stitch sort of in the right hand corner is going to have its own little thread, because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find a leftover piece for that. So if this had been short, I would have done these 2 stitches and parked it to the right for that 1 stitch, but as it's longer, taking it over down to the left will be a more efficient use of my thread. My goodness. Yeah, just trying to split those so I can come between them properly. Okay. So we finally finished watching Arrow, and yeah, it was pretty good. The only thing I didn't like was it had a lot of crossover with other shows that we do watch. Let's see, there was The Flash and Supergirl, and I believe Batwoman for one of them. And Legends of Tomorrow, and we watch pretty much all of those, but then the problem is we weren't watching Arrow at the time. Sort of by the time I got interested in starting it, it was already like in season 5, and this was, you know, when we still had cable, so you couldn't just on demand to watch all the stuff that you had previously missed. And so yeah, it was kind of irritating, because some of the key moments that happened on the show happened on other shows because they were crossover, like potential spoiler alert, although it's been a while, so I don't know if it counts as a spoiler when it's been years. But anyway, the episode where Oliver and Felicity get married happened on The Flash. So we did see that when it aired because we were watching The Flash at the time. But I thought, well, it would really suck for people who are, you know, didn't discover this show until later, and they're watching it and go, wait a minute, when did they get married? We missed it. You know, that's the thing I hate about crossovers. They don't usually bother to include the episodes from other shows with the run of that show. So then you're left, you know, hanging sometimes. I bought myself all of CSI Miami on DVD. And early on it had a crossover with the New York one. And they did not include the 2nd episode, so I had to go and look up what it was, the recap online, to find out how it ended. And then in a later season, like 6 or 7, they had a 3 crossover where it was, pardon me, original CSI and CSI New York and CSI Miami, a 3-episode crossover. And on that one, they included the missing episodes from other series. So it was the same box set, which is silly. And I guess it just depended who was putting it together. And they must have just taken the separate, you know, seasons and just stuck it together, and nobody bothered to make sure that they included the missing episodes. So yeah, I don't like crossovers because of that. It's irritating. I know a lot of people like them, but yeah. If they would make sure to include the missing episodes in the correct place in the run, then it wouldn't bother me. But the fact that is that it messes up your repeats forever. Yeah. Or even your streaming, and that ticks me off. Oh dear. Yeah. Trying to thread that along the back, but the needle was coming up to the top. That's no good. Okay. So we finished that. We're watching Now another show I found, UK show called Hustle, and it's about con artists, grifters. And of course you shouldn't like them, right? Because they're grifters. But you do, because they only con people who deserve it, you know, like they only con other cons who are, you know, taking money from poor little old ladies, you know, that kind of thing. So you don't mind so much when they're conning those people because, hey, they had it coming, right? And it doesn't always go smoothly, which of course makes it more realistic and interesting. So yeah, we were quite enjoying that one. If you liked those kind of heist kind of movies, then I think you would like that show. We've enjoyed it. And there was another one, I think it was Canadian, maybe not, but it was Leverage, and we enjoyed that. And they actually made a spin-off one recently, revival, called Leverage Redemption. Yeah, so we quite enjoyed that. Unfortunately, only the first 2 seasons of Leverage was on Prime. So I'm hoping they will add the others later. It was so much fun because, yeah, we watched the reboot, and LeVar Burton was on it, you know, who played Geordi in Star Trek The Next Generation. But anyway, when they brought him on, his character was playing a librarian, which I thought was awesome because, of course, he was the one who did the very popular Reading Rainbow program when I was a kid. So yeah, they did that sort of as a nod to those. And in the show, at one point, one of the characters say, "Oh, I would love to hang out with you. We could watch TNG." And he says, "What's TNG?" Which is, of course, Star Trek The Next Generation, but they acted as if he didn't know what it was. So that was quite funny. But yeah, it was called Leverage Redemption because they added a new character in the very first episode who basically, he was, you know, a lawyer who helps people do things that aren't they're technically legal, but they're not very nice. And he basically grows a conscience and wants to figure out how he can sort of balance the scales. So he ends up teaming up with this group of grifters who do the same thing. They don't ever steal just for the sake of stealing. They are out there making things right, which is fun. Like if, you know, there was some corporation that dumped a bunch of toxic waste that made people sick and never paid for it, they will go and, you know, find a way to con them out of a bunch of money and then give all the money to the victims. They don't keep it for themselves, or they keep only just enough to, you know, keep going, which makes it basically a modern day Robin Hood show. And I'm sure we all like that, right? So yeah, quite enjoyed that. I mean, there's a reason why the Robin Hood tales have endured for so long, right? We all like that idea, right? That the evil get what's coming to them. There's so many adaptations, but it's funny, I still think the Disney animated version with the foxes is probably still my favorite. And I liked, they made King Richard a lion, because of course he was called the Lionheart, right? So. Yeah, I'm so old. We have a copy of that on VHS. My gosh. And we do still have a VHS player. I mean, we pretty much never use it now, except for a few old home movies that are still on. We haven't digitized yet. So we needed to keep a player to play those, but yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I was saying that's we still say, hey, have we got anything taped? Even though there's no tape involved, right? It's funny how those things endure. Like I said, kids aren't going to understand when we say hang up the phone, because of course we used to hang up the receiver, right, onto the unit on the wall. And we still say that even though there's no hanging up involved, right? Yeah, and we said kids will never know the satisfaction of slamming down the receiver when you were mad at somebody. And you can't do that with an iPhone, right? You'll break it. And hitting end call is just not as satisfying. Yeah, it was actually interesting. There was I saw a meme somebody was sharing about, you know, sort of all these different sensory experiences that are gone now because technology has changed so much. So like, you know, talking on the phone and kinking the cord between your fingers. And TV antennas, collapsing them and pulling them out. Of course, who's got antennas anymore, right? It's all fiber optics and satellite dishes now. Okay, I'm just going to see what I've got parked here before I decide what I'm going to join. Okay, so that's pretty short. Okay, so I'm not going to attach a short piece. I'm going to attach a longer piece. Yeah, we said the old computer monitors, when you turn it off, it would make that crackly, and then all the dust on it was all staticky, and you drag your finger through it. Ugh. I mean, that's another one. You say debugging the computer, because that literally was because with vacuum tubes and the lights, moths got attracted to it and died and shorted it out. So you had to literally shake the bugs out of the machine, and we still say that, you know. We're going to debug it, shake the bugs out. Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, I have a lot of Google searches in my history of origin of the phrase whatever, because I love finding out where phrases come from. Why do we say that? Like I remember when I was a kid asking my mom, why do we say a pair of pants? It's one garment, right? And she said, well, because it has two legs. I said, okay, but a shirt has two arms. We don't say a pair of shirts, right? And then it turns out it's because what became pants used to be separate pieces. You used to have drawers and then hose to cover your legs that were tied in or laced in. And so they were separate pieces. So you had a pair of pants because it was two leggings, right, that were separate pieces. And so that terminology endured, even though it's all one piece now. But shirts were always one garment. So that's the reason why you don't say a pair of shirts. So yeah, I'm a nerd for things like that. It's fun. There was one, it's funny how there's some where the meaning's been lost. There was, I like to read a lot of historical, and there was Regency, and they'd say somebody stuck their spoon in the wall to mean that they died. And I've looked it up, and apparently nobody knows why that phrase was used, just that it was. So yeah, they still have it, but because some of them I understand, like they said, to cock up one's toes, meaning, yeah, you're on your back, you know, you died. But no, stuck his spoon in the wall. I don't know why. If anybody does know, I would love to hear it. Yeah, I'm a real nerd for things like that. Only problem is then, of course, if I'm watching historical or reading historical stuff, anachronisms really bug me. Take me right out of the story. Like I was reading one recently that was set during the Regency. And I don't know if I mentioned this one before, but it said that one of the characters was wearing a light touch of makeup. And I'm like, but they didn't call it makeup until the 1920s. You know? They would have called it cosmetics. And also she was, you know, a proper lady. And I'm pretty sure they didn't wear much cosmetics because that was not considered proper. So, or there was one I read that was set during the American Revolutionary War. And at one point, the heroine checks the guy's hand to see if he's wearing a wedding ring. I'm like, okay, but this is the 1700s. Guys didn't wear wedding rings until about World War II era. Maybe World War I, but it wasn't until the 1900s. So, that annoyed me. Sometimes I can keep keep reading through that, but sometimes it's just like I was already having trouble carrying on with it, and that was the last straw. The worst I read once was a guy's a time traveler, I think, or no, it was set in the it was an old Western, and at some point somebody says, well, that's the $64,000 question. I'm like, that comes from game shows. They wouldn't have been using it back then. What would have been a $64,000 question in the Old West? That, oh, I can't believe. And this wasn't like a self-published book. This was a book from like, you know, Avon or something, a major publishing house. And I'm like, seriously, nobody caught that? You know, they go through copy edits and line edits and everything, and nobody caught that. Hello, that's completely incorrect. Oh, yeah, things like that annoy me. Or I was reading one where the character was constantly being described as kneading pastry dough. And I just, it set my teeth on edge because I've made pastry by hand. You cannot knead it. You have to handle it as little as possible or it turns into a rock. Yeah, biscuits or pastry, you don't want to handle them too much. They get hard. It's bread dough that you need. So yeah, that irritating. It's talking about the character, you know, slamming it on the table and stuff. And I'm just wincing because, you're going to make it rubbery. And then when you bake it, it's going to be hard as a rock and someone's going to break a tooth. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I try not to be nitpicky, but I just, can't help it. They see there was another meme someone shared that I had to share too that said, you know, me to me saying, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. You know that they're incorrect, but don't say it, don't say it. And then also me, actually. Oh. Yeah, the struggle's real. That's for sure. It's hard because I guess I go by my own compass. If I'm wrong about something, I'd rather someone tell me than that I keep working on inaccurate information or spreading inaccurate information. But yeah, not everyone's like me. People can get quite defensive, which I understand. It's a normal human thing. But yeah, so I really have to know when to bite my tongue. Just not important. Don't do it. Okay. So going back over to the left again to work my way back to the right. Okay, for once I don't have any short pieces. Okay. Yeah, I got dry skin today. I broke down and I ate pineapple, which I really shouldn't. I know my body doesn't like it. I got a bit of a itchy bit there because yeah, it makes me break out a bit in an allergic reaction. So I break down maybe, you know, once or twice a year and eat it, and reminds me why I shouldn't eat it. It's not as bad. When I was a kid, I couldn't handle it at all, and I couldn't even handle tomatoes, which I love tomato stuff, or orange juice. Yeah, I had to go on an elimination diet for quite a while, so that wasn't fun. So I'm not as sensitive. They all have citric acid in varying degrees. So as long as I don't overdo it, I can handle oranges and I can handle tomatoes, but unfortunately, pineapples are still yeah. I know I'm going to pay for it later. Do I really, really want to eat it? So yeah, now I'll be good for a while and not do it. Oh, whoops. Oh yeah, I was grabbing a thread from the wrong spot on my tray. Good thing I noticed before I joined that. That would not have been good. I don't know why, they're not really that close in color, but they're right next to each other number-wise in my working tray, so I guess that's why. Oh, good thing I was paying attention. Oh, look at that. That is my last needle on the needle minder. Okay, so let's see. This one is threaded, or if I have to, no, I'm gonna have to unthread something. Yeah. Goodness. And I didn't leave this one threaded anyway because it's super short, so that's why it would just fall apart. Okay, so this is the one I decided I was going to carry back up. Yeah, that's right. Oh my, there we go. Okay. Oh, huh. I didn't think that one was still threaded because it was so short, but I guess I decided to live dangerously. Shouldn't have bothered though, because yeah, now I just have to rethread anyway. Oh well. accidentally caught that on my finger on the back side, so when I pulled the needle, the thread did not come with it. Yeah, well, if I'm gonna unthread it, I prefer it to be on the right side. Much easier to do than fiddling with it on the bottom. Okay, so ooh. Pardon me, oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely not working in rows for this one. It's definitely very slanty along this way. Got a little, you can see a little bit of another end just came up with that thread, so there. We will just encourage it to go back to the wrong side, where it belongs. Either way, I can't do a bunch in a row. Yeah, that's just the way it's gonna work out. Oh boy, and I'm out of needles again. Okay, just gonna use my snag nabbit tool to help me guide one out. Because most of these I want to work with are threaded. but this one was not, unfortunately. Just grab one at random. Okay. Oh yes, I need a new strand out of my envelope. Oh, right. Don't have a needle. Okay. Now this color changing is really slowing me down today. But at least this way, I won't have any missed stitches that I gotta fill in later. Yeah, so that's the reason I prefer this a bit more slow and steady. And also much less likely to make counting errors. When you're not doing things out of order, you know, when you might count 2 stitches away and it's supposed to be 3, and then you base a bunch of stitches off the one that you put in incorrectly, yeah, that's not fun. I've done that with, I've parked threads based on other threads and done them incorrectly, but that is easier to fix than stitches you've actually done and then have to rip them back, especially if you did the stitches and ended off the thread. Yeah, I find sometimes you end up having to unravel more than just the mistake so that you have a piece long enough to secure it, and then you have to start a new thread, and yeah, that's not fun. That's just frustrating. Yeah, lots of this color. Okay, well, we finally reached one that we can park, waiting for the next diagonal. So I'll get one of my needles back. Okay. Okay. Whoops. Screen being a bit glitchy there. Wow. I've had this tablet for almost 3 years, so yeah. Oh, let's see what we did here. There's a bit of a tangle. There we go. Managed to tease it free. Ah, yes, these two, I'm just gonna do these two and then end it off. And then the other thread that's parked there, if I remember correctly, is a little longer. And so I will carry on stitching with that one when I get to it. Yeah, perfect. The thread there was sticking to the sleeve of my sweater, trying to come with me. I had one time I got to work and at one point realized there was a thread stuck to my pants. Oh, so I had to tuck it in my pocket to take home, and then had to try comparing it to yeah, the main skins to find out which thread it was. I've had that sometimes though. I cut myself a new strand, and you know, I take one little strand from it, and then later I go to get another one and I can't find it anywhere. And usually, yeah, it's because it got stuck to a piece of clothing and tracked away somewhere. One time I actually found it was stuck to one of my son's stuffed animals. It has this kind of fur. It's almost like a bit, it almost feels like Velcro. And yeah, it was perfect for just grabbing my thread. So I teased him later that his stuffy had stolen my embroidery floss. Okay. Okay, and then longer. I may just end this one off. Yeah, as I have so many of this, and the other thread is longer, more suitable for carrying and parking. So there's still enough left after I trim this that I can use it later when I have just a few stitches of this grouped together. Okay. All right, finally starting to reach the right side of this diagonal. Get more threads tucked away. Okay, yeah, that one is right on the edge. I'm just going to tuck it away. Leave it for the next diagonal. Gotcha. Oh, geez. Oh my, pulled that magnet. Hooked too many threads on it. Pulled it right off my work. Ooh. Don't think I've done that before. Nope, that is not right. Yeah. Don't think anyway. No, yeah, because it was one from the grid line, but not two from the, or three from the bottom grid line. So that's how I made sure I was in the correct big square. Yeah, I was about to put it in the wrong one. That is why I grid. Especially important when you have more than one thread of the same color part. You could really mix yourself up doing that. Alrighty. Is this one threaded? It is. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you heard that, was my guinea pig sneezing. So cute. Still ended up having to unthread it. I caught it, pulled it out of my needle. Yeah, their sneezes are so tiny. It's pretty cute. Oh, right, I unthreaded that, so I'm not going to bother rethreading it. Yeah, I'm just going to carry on downwards. Okay. Oops. Oh dear. This one is almost too short, but I am determined to get one more stitch out of it. I am stubborn like that. Yeah. And I did. Sweet. I win. Look at that, 54.99. We are so close to to 55%. Shall we keep going until we hit it? Yeah, why not? Probably shouldn't take much longer. We hope. Only need 1/100% this time. Come on. Oh, there's that end again. I think it's even the same one. Close to the same spot. Yeah. No, still didn't do it. We're still at 54.99. Let's see. Okay, so this one will be ended off. All right, let's see if this does it. Nope. Oh, I said I was going to stitch till then, but who knows? Maybe it's going to take more stitches than I thought. Oh dear. We shall see. It's got to get there eventually. No. My goodness. It's just like a watched pot, right? Yeah. Because I'm paying attention to it, it's never gonna boil. Oh dear. Yeah, I remember that was on Star Trek when Data tries to test that saying. So sometimes he ignores it, sometimes he watches it intently, and he says, and it's always boiling at the exact same interval. And then I think it's Geordi says to turn off his inner chronometer. And then, of course, at the end when it starts boiling, then Data tries it, and he gives the kettle a weird look, and then that's how the episode ends, which was quite funny. Yay! Well, after all that, it finally happened, right? Okay, so that seems like a good place to wrap it up for the day. So thank you so much for joining me. All right, see you next time. Bye.